Welcome back to another Film Geek movie review. Today I am off to check out the new dark comedy, The Duel. So what is the plot of this movie? Well, it tells the story of a man named Woody who finds out that his girlfriend is having an affair with one of his best friends. And rather than getting into a fist fight with this person or however to settle their differences, he decides to have a good old-fashioned duel. That's right, the old back-to-back 10 paces, turn around and shoot at each other kind of duel. And while they're trying to get this put together, Woody and his friends find out about a secret organization of very wealthy people, led by Patrick Warburton it would seem, and they put on duels. And this leads them down into a weird, thriller-filled looking kind of rabbit hole. Guys, this movie looks really interesting, but I don't really know much of anything about it. I was just scrolling through the good old AMC app the other day, and I saw this movie and was like, hey, it's Wednesday, I got nothing better to do, so why don't I go take in a premiere? So that's where I'm headed right now, guys. I am off to check out the new movie, The Duel. Welcome back, just getting home, and guys, I enjoyed this movie. I was pleasantly surprised with what I saw. I went into this film knowing absolutely nothing about it. I had zero expectations on this movie. I was literally going through my AMC app, seeing what movies were coming out, and I saw this movie was on the last day of July, so I thought, what the hell, let's go. It ended up being a premiere also, so I don't even know how many theaters this movie is in right now, but honestly, guys, I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty solid. So let's get this started, shall we? We're going to get things started with negatives, then move into the positives to end the video on the ever so important high note. Now, one thing about this film is it's not necessarily a long movie. The movie only clocks in at about an hour and 40 minutes. However, in the second act, once the guys get to their main location where they're going to have the duel, the movie itself really starts to slow down a lot in those moments. And I feel like there are some things that could have been trimmed down a little bit in the second act that necessarily didn't need to be there to just kind of get a little bit of the fat off of the steak a little bit here, the cut of meat, because it could have been slimmed down to a nice, good old 130, because that is just like the sweet spot when it comes to movies like this. They don't overstay their welcome. They're just there. They get in. They tell their story. They have some good characters, some great moments, and boom, out the door. Not that the hour and 40 minutes runtime is necessarily a long movie, and it's not a long movie at all by today's standards. It just seemed to linger around a little too long in some moments in the second act. There were some shots that could have been slimmed down just a little bit. And there were some moments, that maybe some moments of dialogue that didn't necessarily need to be there for the character development or for the storytelling elements. It's just kind of filler, maybe an extra joke tossed in. And that's something else too, is that this movie is a comedy. I guess you could call it a comedy, a dark comedy, what have you, but it starts off fairly funny. Like, there are some good moments with the friends and all that, of course, with the showing that their friendship and their chemistry and all of that, which we'll get to, there are some really solid jokes. But once we get to the second act, it seemed like all of the jokes kind of slowed down. There are moments where you kind of like snicker, and there's some moments of tension, but really in that second act, the movie itself takes a much bigger twist to where it's not such a funny movie anymore, and it leans a lot more into the thriller aspect. However, I don't feel the movie really grasps into the thriller moments as much as it could. There is a scene in the film that was fairly tense, and you're kind of wondering how it's going to play out, and then it kind of ends on a silly note, you could say, and I don't really understand the reaction that the character had from that point on. I mean, I know that it was like, he was kind of had a stressful, intense moment, but it just seemed like the character was in a very just weird state after that. It was fine. It didn't ruin the film. It just felt like that little subplot or whatever they threw in there, it didn't really need to be there. And this is, of course, just my opinion. Now, other than that, guys, I thought this was a really solid film, even though it didn't keep the comedy aspect flowing throughout the entire movie. It does take on a much more serious tone when you get to about the halfway mark. But all in all, guys, this was a solid and really fun film. So let's move into the positives, shall we? The first thing I want to talk about is the chemistry amongst the actors. It was really great. Now, we are also meeting up with this group of friends during the worst moment of their friendship. And there were things in this that I liked that I thought worked really well. Now, it's a group of 4 friends who have been friends for well over 10 years. There was one moment where you're like, oh, we've been friends since we were freshmen in high school. They're supposed to be in their mid-20s. So yeah, they've been friends for around 10 years. And the chemistry's there. And what I also liked was the fact that even though the 2 main characters were at each other's throats, quite literally throughout the movie, you can definitely still tell that there was chemistry and a very solid foundation for a friendship that was there. And I really liked that amongst the actors. So yeah, the acting was really well done. I thought Patrick Warburton did an excellent job. He's always funny in whatever he's in, and he had a fairly big role. I was kind of expecting him just to show up for like a 5 to 10 minute segment, but no, he's in this movie quite a lot, and I did like that. The cinematography also, I wanted to put that in. Now, while it's nothing super unusual, there are some really great moments in this film. One moment in particular that I really enjoyed when one of the main characters were walking down this really beautiful staircase, and just the costuming that he was wearing, like his garb for the duel and everything. So he's in this cool tuxedo with a cloak and all, and he's walking down this staircase, and it was just one fluid shot as he went down in slow motion, and it just looked really good. There was another really excellent shot with everybody sitting around a dinner table, and I just really enjoyed the cinematography. The writing was good. The pacing, although the second act does slow down, the pacing overall in general was nice, and the story was solid, and it leaves you with kind of a unusual feeling by the end of the film. All in all, guys, I don't know when this movie's coming out in theaters. I went to a premiere this evening, and so I don't have a solid time or anything that this thing's going to be showing up out there, so just keep your eyes open, honestly. The Duel, it was a fun film, and if you're someone who just wants to go see a good time, a fun little indie comedy thriller that doesn't quite keep the comedy going throughout the entire film, but the story is solid enough that it keeps you interested up until the very end, this is definitely the movie for you. And as I always say, guys, these little bitty small films, these independent films, these intimate films, all of these films, this is the lifeblood of cinema, all right? And I know everybody loves seeing those big tentpole films. Wolverine and Deadpool was a blast. Dune 2, amazing. Furiosa, big spectacular thing. But these small little indie films, this is the lifeblood of cinema. This is cinema, folks. This is art, and it's wonderful, and you should get out there and support it if you have the opportunity. So yeah, guys, this is a solid get out there and see it in theaters if it sounds like your jam. Well, that's all I have for you today, folks. Thanks again for checking out the Film Geek. If you liked what you saw here today, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications, and give me the old thumbs up so I know you like what you're seeing. And if there's one more thing you can do, folks, that is keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.